So you should be done with your warm-up, and now we're going to move on to our lesson. It's something that you kind of are familiar with because you did some of it in 8th grade. Okay, so objective today, students will be able to solve equations and inequalities, including variables on both sides. We're not looking at variables on both sides today, but you are looking at solving equations. Okay, so vocabulary. Remember the distributive property is when you take that 8 times x, and then 8 times 2. Okay, so it would be 8x plus 16. Inverse operations, a quantity which cancels out a given quantity. So what that means is if we're adding, you subtract. If we're subtracting, you add. If we're multiplying, you divide. If we're dividing, you multiply. So you always do the opposite of whatever is happening there. That's inverse operations. So the addition property of equality means if it's subtracting here and you add it, you're left with what? Negative 4 plus 4 is 0, so it goes away. So we're only left with the x here. But what you do to one side, you must do to the other. Subtraction property of equality is the same thing. If you have a positive 4, how do you get rid of it? You subtract this 4, okay? And it's the same thing. What you do to one side, you must do to the other. The multiplication property of equality is the same thing. So this 1/2 is actually the same thing as x over 2, or x divided by 2. It's the same thing. So when it's this over 2, you multiply by this bottom number, okay? 2 over 1. So what you do to one side, you do to the other. So it'll be x equals 10 because 5 times 2 is 10. And you'll get used to that one. Division property of equality is the same thing. If you have 3x, the way to get rid of 3 times x is to divide by 3, like what they did here. That'll cancel out. 6 divided by 3 is 2. Because what you do to one side, you must do to the other. Okay, so if you have a solution is when you solve it out and x equals some number. That means you have a solution. No solution is when it comes out to some number equals some number, and that doesn't make sense. So after they solved out this problem, it said 5 equals 3. Does 5 equal 3? No, so that's no solution. But sometimes you'll solve it out, and it'll be 2x equals 2x, or 2 equals 2, or x equals x. Does x equals x? Yes. Does 2 equal 2? Yes, it does. Does 2x equals 2x? Yes, it does. So that means you have infinite number of solutions, okay? That means infinity number of solutions. Okay, so here's some signs you need to study and know for sure. This is the greater than sign. The bigger numbers on this side, on the bigger side, okay? The bigger numbers on this side. The less than sign, the smaller numbers on this side. Greater than or equal to, the bigger numbers on this side, and it's equal to as well. That can count as well. Less than or equal to the smaller numbers on this side, or it could be equal to, okay? Now, let's go over some of these. I'm going to exit out of the PowerPoint so that I can write on this easier. Where's the exit button? There it is, okay. Running auto setup. What just happened? Hold on 1 second. For some reason, it reverted back to a different way to view. Sorry about this. Okay, so in your PowerPoint, so it says x minus 9 equals negative 12. I want you to look at this. If you could fill in some number for x, what would it be? What number minus 9 will give you negative 12? Think about it. What number minus 9 will give you negative 12? So looking at the number line up on the wall, some number minus 9 will give you negative 12. What is that? No? What if we started at negative 3? Look at negative 3 minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Would that give you negative 12? Yes. So if you started with negative 3 minus 9 would give you negative 12. That's what you're trying to figure out here. You're trying to figure out what number minus 9 will give you negative 12. An easier way to figure that out would be, since this is subtracting, we add 9. But what you do to one side, you must do to the other. Okay? Remember there's an invisible wall here. You can draw that wall if you need to. You will not see me drawing it, but that's up to you. So, Negative 9 plus 9 cancels out. We have x left equals negative 12 plus 9 is negative 3. Okay, so that would be your answer there. Oops. Okay, so on this one, okay. So 7 minus some number will give you 28. How are we going to figure that out? You do the opposite. So you need to subtract the 7. Always do the number first. What you do to one side, you do to the other. 7 minus 7 is 0, so it's nothing. But we still have this negative sign. So remember to write negative x equals, what is 28 minus 7? Huh? What is it? 28 minus 7. 21. Okay? But then you have this negative. Okay? Change it to a positive, and this one changes to a negative. Remember, it does the opposite. So x equals negative 21. Okay? Because you cannot have a negative x. That's not allowed. No. Okay? And this example here. Oops, sorry, it didn't go. All right, so this one is being divided by this negative 4. How do we get rid of divide? Multiply. So we multiply by the negative 4. Multiply by negative 4. This will cancel out. So we're just left with x equals, what's 3 times negative 4? Negative 12. Okay, and that's it. You're done. But then you can check it. Negative 12 divided by negative 4, does it give you 3? Yes, it does. Okay, so you can always check your work that way. So now let's look at your paper, and we're going to do a couple examples of this together. Okay. All right, so number one. Number one is 4y plus 3 equals 11. So what do we do first? Yeah, subtract the 3. Always get rid of the number first. So subtract the 3 from both sides. Okay, so we have 4y equals, what's 11 minus 3? Huh? 8. And then what do we need to do? No. What's this 4 doing to the y? Multiplying, so how do we get rid of it? You divide it, because you want to have the y by itself. So you divide by the 4, those cancel. Y equals, what's 8 divided by 4? 2. And this may seem really crazy and really hard right now, but you'll get used to it the more you do it. The more practice you do with this, the easier it gets. Okay? All right, so let's do the next one. We're going to do number 4. Okay, so what's our first step here? We have 3y minus 9 equals 0. What's our first step? Add 9. Remember what we do to one side, you must do to the other. These cancel. We're left with on this side the 3y equals, what's 0 plus 9? What is it? 9. Okay, now what's this 3 doing to the y? What's it doing to the y? It's multiplying, and we want to get y by itself, so what do we need to do? Divide. Okay, so y equals, what's 9 divided by 3? 3. Okay? Now let's look at number 7. Number 7 says negative 5x minus 30 equals 0. What's our first step here? Add 30. Always do the number first. Add the 30. And what we do to one side, we must do to the other. Okay? So this cancels out. We're left with negative 5x equals, what's 0 plus 30? 30. Now, what's this negative 5 doing to the x? It's multiplying, so how do we get rid of it? Divide by negative 5. They cancel. X equals, what is 30 divided by negative 5? Negative 6. Okay? Okay, so now we're going to go down to number 10. Okay, number 10. What's the first step we need to do here? Subtract 5. Very good. Remember, we're trying to get m by itself, so get rid of this number first. Subtract the 5. What you do to one side, you do to the other. This cancels. What are we left with on this side? Negative 6m. Don't forget your negative. 2 minus 5 is? Negative 3. So now what do we need to do? Very good. Divide by that negative 6. Okay, this cancels out, so we're just left with m. What is negative 3 divided by negative 6? Hit math, then or enter, and what's your fraction? 1/2. Remember, I always want your answers in fractions. Do not give me decimals, it will be counted wrong. Okay, so if you type in negative 3 divided by negative 6 in your calculator, then hit math, enter, enter, you'll get your answer. Okay, so number 13. What's our first step here? Subtract 7. Very good, because we want to get w by itself, right? So subtract that 7. This cancels out. So what's 4 minus 7? Negative 3. And then what are we left with on the side? Negative 2w. Very good. So what's our next step here? Divide by negative 2. Remember, it's multiplying, so we need to divide it. Okay? What we do to one side, we do to the other. What is negative 3 divided by negative 2? 3/2. Right, very good. Positive 3/2, because a negative divided by a negative is a positive. Whoops. Okay, I'm going to do one more example with you, and that's this number 15 over here, because I want you to see me do this one. What's our first step here? Number 15. Subtract the 4. Very good. Subtract the 4. Okay, so we have 2/5 y equals, what's 6 minus 4? 2. What do you think our next step is here? Remember, it's multiplying by 2, but also dividing by 5. That's what's happening here. So get rid of that bottom number first. How are we going to get rid of this dividing by 5 first? Multiply by 5. Multiply by 5. Okay, so that cancels out this 5 here. We're still left with that 2 times y. Okay, and 2 times 5 is 10. Now what are we going to do with that 2? Divide by 2. Okay, so that's the order you go in doing that. So y equals, what's 10 divided by 2? 5. Okay. Be sure to show me all of your work for all these problems. Please let me know if you need any help on this, because this is very important for the rest of Algebra 1.